What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Indie Inkwell. My name is JJ. I am one of your two co-hosts. Unfortunately, the Air Force yet again has kept Longbox Entertainment away from us this week, but that is okay. The show will go on. We've got a very special guest with a super fun comic. I'm super excited to talk about this today. Please, everybody, welcome Mark Maia. Is that pronounced
Yeah,
correctly?
yeah, you did it. You nailed it. Mark
Awesome. I should have
Maia.
asked you that before we went on, but
No, it's been
I,
good.
I, I was fairly confident.
About 15 years ago, everybody would get that wrong. I got Maia is Mark Maia, and somebody
Right.
tried.
I've noticed people have gotten a lot better with like quote unquote like unusual spelled
Yeah,
names lately. So
well, and Maya's become a popular. Like since then, Maya's become a popular name with like teenage girls. Like there was a stint there where I couldn't leave the house
yeah.
without tripping over one, and they're all spelled differently. Maya, Maja,
Yeah,
Maya.
I've seen a
There's
whole bunch of
so
different
many.
ones. So we'd like to start off every show getting the guest's origin story. Every good comic book character has a great origin story. We figure comic book creators have good origin stories because everybody gets into this industry or this hobby very differently, I've noticed, especially doing these interviews. So what was kind of your entry into, or I guess your rather first exposure to comic books, and kind of what made you decide to go into that industry? Because I know originally you were in the gaming industry, right?
Yeah. Well, I still am. I just left the office
Okay.
environment, and now I'm doing. When my son was born, I left the office so I could be home, and now I'm doing contract work. So I'm still working in the video game industry, just as a contractor.
Gotcha, just not fully employed with one particular place. That's
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
probably the easier way to do it anyway, right?
It's nice when there's well, I'm home, which it gets a little lonely, but it has its benefits. I could take a
Right.
shower in the middle of the day if I feel like.
You can take a nap
I
in the
feel
middle
like
of the
yeah,
day if
yeah.
you want,
So
like
hell, I got a nice little comfy couch right here.
heck yeah.
Oh yeah. But
I
as
was
far
gonna
as
say because I was gonna before you get into it, I'm gonna fanboy out for a split second because I know you worked on one of my favorite games of all time growing up, and that was Destroy All Humans.
well, I worked on the
So
mobile version, but yeah,
was it?
it's the mobile version.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, but still, hey, that is still one of my favorite games ever. So
Oh, I see, Peter. Peter, how's it going, buddy? I saw him come popping up in the chat there.
hey, what's going
He's
on,
he's
Peter?
one
But
of my,
yeah, so
board game peeps.
back on topic. What was your exposure to comic books, and what kind of made you decide to go into it yourself?
Well, there's, let's say there's a two-part question there,
Mhm.
because when I got into, comics was probably when I was around 13, and it was with, so you guys can do the math and figure out my age. I was 13, and it was Spider-Man #1 Torment, the one drawn by Todd McFarlane,
Ah, okay.
and, and I saw it and I was like, this is awesome, right? Like it was art that I wasn't used to experiencing because like it was my first it was the comic book that pulled me in. Like I've tried comic books when I was younger, but I didn't know what to buy. And
Mhm.
my parents would buy whatever I pointed to. I pointed to a Daredevil comic book when I was like, 11 or 10 years old, and it was just way over my head. I didn't
Oh,
understand it.
yeah, I'm sure.
It was too dark. So I was like, I tried to like it, but I was like, it's not for me, I
Didn't really
guess.
understand what's going on when you're
Yeah,
that
so then when I
young.
was 13, a comic book store opened up, near my house where it was like I just had to cross the street to get to it. Befriended them, and I was like they're like, "Do you read comics?" I was like, "No, but I always wanted to. Like, what do I start?" And they're like, "Well, this is new." So,
Right.
it was, Spider-Man Torment, and, that's what sucked me into the hobby, and I started, like, just collecting. I couldn't buy them fast enough for how fast I read them, right? But when you're a kid, you have a lot more free time too, so you sit down, you read 30 in one sitting, not a big deal, right?
Right, yeah, it's not
Like
like nowadays where we all have, like, to be read piles just stacking up beside the bed or something.
exactly. Like, if I read at the pace that I did when I was a young teen, there'd be no piles. Like,
Right,
I'd read them
100%.
faster than they're produced. McFarlane's, Spawn Spider-Man, yep. Yep, yeah, those things were insane. That's webbing, he made the
The
he
the
like,
the webbing
his
and,
webbing.
like, the poses.
Yeah,
Like, I think that was the first time they'd actually tried to make Spider-Man look like a spider with the way he's, like, standing.
yeah, I think Todd took it to another level of, like, let's introduce some more character to his artwork, character
Yeah.
beyond the story of what we've told you. Let's show you a new side of Spider-Man, like a new way to visually tell his story, and I thought he did a great job that way. But no, back to the question. So yeah, that's what got me into comic books. What got me into the comic book industry, I say if I didn't get into the creative industry to begin with, like in the video game industry, I probably wouldn't have even tried for the comic book industry.
Mhm.
Since I got into video games, I realized that, it's possible to have like a creative a creative job that you enjoy. Like I didn't think video games was a real job that people did, you know,
Right.
something other people did. Like there's professionals out there hiding in the shadows, putting things out.
Yeah, you think it's like this weird, like, secret cabal off in,
Yeah,
like, one
exactly.
office somewhere that makes all the video games, like
It's like acting, like movies. It's like I can't be an actor. That's another group
you
of
get
people.
plucked from birth to do
I'm
that,
not in
right?
that group.
Like
Yeah. So, but when I got that, that's when it became possible. And I'll tell you, this is going to be a little short bit. I actually got into art. Like I was always an artist,
Mhm.
but I got into art school by accident. I didn't know that doing art for a living was a job. All I knew was the term starving artist, and I was like, that sounds like a crap job. Like,
Right.
I don't wanna be starving. That's a crappy title. And, so out of high school, the guidance counselor told me, "Oh, apply to broadcasting." So I did. All rejected everywhere. Didn't get so no broadcasting for me. So I was like, "I don't know what to do." And then I got a call from a college in Toronto, and, which that's where I'm from, and they were like, there was a mail strike at the time. They called me and they were like, "Yeah, you can pick up your timetable, your courses, all your curriculum. You can pick it up on Monday at this time at the front office." I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! Am I accepted into college?" And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, sorry, you didn't know? Yeah, they loved your portfolio. They wanted you to come in." But I was like, "Okay, great. Sorry, not to hold you. What college?" And like Centennial. Okay, great, great.
So
What
wait, they never,
program?
like, notified you that you were getting accepted to anything?
Well, here's the thing. I was like, "What program?" And they're like, "Oh, it's the I think it was called Illustration Technical or something. I can't remember what it was called. Or art. No, it wasn't. That was another course. But anyways, they gave me the art course name, and I was like, "Okay." So I got accepted, and I can come pick that up on Monday, and then I'm in. And they're like, "Yep, okay." Be there Monday, hung up. First thing, I was like, how the hell did I get accepted to art college? I never even applied to any art courses. I
None.
I've never applied to a single art course. All I applied to was broadcasting. That was all I applied to because I didn't know what
What?
the hell I was doing. So there was some paperwork mishap, and I don't have a
So you
I didn't
didn't
have a
send,
portfolio.
like, I was gonna say you didn't send them a portfolio or
No, I
anything?
didn't have a
Like,
portfolio.
I was
So
gonna
they
say,
were
well,
like,
I
"We
mean, I
loved your
guess, like,
portfolio."
especially back then, what kind of portfolio do you really have for, like, especially broadcasting? Like,
Yeah, so it was I didn't have it like I was just a dumb high school student and they accepted me into this college, so I just went. I just showed up on Monday and went. And
nobody ever
it's never been
questioned
fixed.
it?
No.
Like
No, never nobody ever questioned it. So that's what got me into the creative industry was this random phone
wow.
call and I got accepted into a course I never applied to.
That
So
is fascinating.
yeah, there's probably some other Mark Maia out there somewhere who just didn't get a shot. You know what I
Oh
mean?
my god.
It
Now
worked
you
out for
gotta
me, so
look
I'm
over your
okay with
shoulder
it.
at every convention, like
Yeah. So then, from there I got into animations and illustrations and not so much in the writing, but I was always liked writing. Even as a kid, I wrote in school. I won writing competitions, in grade school and in high school, but never thought that was a job. So I thought, oh, I'll
Right.
do comic books. But my sequential art was yeah, my sequential art was very good. I'm more of a one piece type of thing. Like, I can probably put out a cover, which I'm
Right,
thinking of doing
really
for the
nice
next
at
Kickstarter.
prints.
But as far as like sequential art, that's not my forte. Like storyboarding was never really my thing. Um, so I found an artist. I'm making this long story short here at the end here.
I
I
was gonna
found my
say, go
artist.
dude, if people don't talk, we don't have a show, so please.
Well, I want to be able to answer your other questions, and it's possible you're going to ask these. But like when I first got into it as a writer, because I decided I'm just going to get into comic books as a writer. I don't even know how to do that, so I'm just going to write my script. I'm just going to write a script. I was like, bottom line, I know I need a script, so that's what I'm doing. I was like, I don't know who the artist is. I don't even know how to get into comics. Do I apply to Marvel? Do I apply to DC? Is that how it works? I have no
Right.
freaking idea. So I wrote my script. Um, tried to get I knew a lot of friends that were artists, being, in the video game industry. A lot of my friends were artists. Try to get them to work with me and being like a partnership, like, hey, we'll do this thing. And I was like, I'll sweeten the deal. I was like, I'll pay for all the cost of printing, and then when the book gets out, say the first $5,000 it makes is yours, and then we'll split everything after that 50-50. It's like, how does that sound? So for some people that was great, and they jumped on, but they never finished because their full-time jobs were creating art. So then they didn't want to go home and do that again. So I get it. No hard feelings. So they
Right.
dropped off. That happened a few times. I got involved with a few other projects, a few other artists, even projects that artists started. Those fell off again because, again, the commitment to doing your own thing, it was difficult. I had it. It was so I always did my part. I wrote my scripts. I did that
Right.
stuff. But then the arts fell off. Even when it was a project that it was an artist started, they fell off. So I put the script away for many years, and brought it back up last year, the script for So-Called Living. And I decided I'm just going to do an employee-employer situation. I'm just going to find an artist, hire him outright on a contract to do my book. No 50-50 deals. I'm going to pay you outright. The book makes nothing. You still get paid.
Right.
Right. And it's not in writing, but like if the book does really well, I'll gladly give you a bonus. But if I'm not going to split as soon as the book starts making money, because if you don't want to take the risk, then you don't get the reward. Do you know what I mean?
Oh
But I
yeah.
didn't, in all fairness to Marco, I never gave him that opportunity, because at that point I was already like, I'm just looking for an employee. I mean, I'm just looking for a guy that I can hire to do my artwork. Now I love working with Marco. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But like before I ever found him, I already made that decision in my mind. I was like, the only way this is gonna get done is if I control it all myself and pay people to make this happen.
Hmm.
Just because I'm not really in those circles of like a bunch of comic book indie creators that get together and they have these little powwows and they create, and it's great. I'm
Oh,
not
so
in
you're
those
still
circles.
trying to get in there.
Yeah, so I'm not in those circles. So I was like,
Well, maybe after today you will be.
maybe, maybe.
Past
So
guests, come on, hook him up, man.
well, I found a group, lesser known comics. They're a great group of like indie creators, and they get together every other Thursday, and they meet up and discuss about their projects, and they do a lot of titles under the lesser known comics label,
I was gonna say,
which
I
is
think I've heard of that before.
yeah.
It's familiar.
So I don't do books under their label because my book's already planned. Like the idea is I do books 1 and 2 on a Kickstarter. That funds, I can use that money to do books 2 and 3, and that funds I can use that to do 4 and 5
Right, and
up
if there's
to
anything extra, it's like,
yeah
sweet, a little bonus,
yeah.
like
So the idea is to get up to 8 issues. Anyways, that was a long answer to your question, and
I
it could have
love it
been.
though.
I'm restraining myself. I'm a bit of a rambler, so I want to give you the
Uh,
opportunity to
Everybody who tells me, "I'm sorry if I ramble," I literally tell everybody, like, "Please
ramble.
talk. If you don't talk, it makes the show so much more difficult to do." Like
Well, I want to be able to talk to you. Give you a chance too, because I do have a chance. I do have the I guess a reputation of like taking over a conversation just because I don't shut up.
No, you're
So
good, man. So, with McFarlane, I know you said that was kinda like the first comic you got into, like,
yeah.
when you first got into everything. Were there other characters that you ended up gravitating to more, or, like, was there a particular writer that you really kinda not necessarily tried to craft yourself after, but, like, looked to for, like, examples and reference and
when
influence?
when I look at writers that I enjoy their style, I don't know if I necessarily match their style or try to match their style, but when I read their books, I feel like if I could work with somebody and write with somebody and continue a series, I'd like to try to do it this way or like this guy. So like I like
Okay.
Brian Michael Bendis, I like Robert Kirkman, Mark Miller. So those are probably my top 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. So those like Mark Miller, anything he writes, I usually like. Like
I'd have
I
to agree.
he's just great.
Same
And
goes
like
for pretty much all those names you just
yeah, yeah,
mentioned.
yeah, like, you know, and Bendis, he made me interested in the Avengers, and
Right.
because he made them feel more real. Because I found why I couldn't get into the Avengers when I was into comic when I finally got into comics, they were a little too, for me, pompous and self-righteous and being like, this is the right way to do
Always
everything.
right.
And
Yes.
it's too much. I was like, no. And they feel the need to like let everybody know how loyal I am. I will never do this
Well,
because
and
you are my
especially if you're
friend.
like 13, 14,
Yeah.
just getting into comics, like at that point, you don't need the, Hulk Hogan character, take your vitamins, eat, and say your prayers, all that nonsense. It's like you want some real characters.
Yeah. So I never got into it. Then I read what was the story he did? It was like that break something. I can't remember what it was called. It was Breakout. I think that was him. Anyways, it was an Avenger story that he did, and I was like, hey, these are good, right? And then I started getting into the Avengers when it was, I don't remember which order they came in, but Bendis brought me to the Ultimate Universe, but I don't think he didn't do the Avengers. He did Spider-Man there. It was him and Bagley.
Yeah, because that was my comic book introduction to Spider-Man. I was a little bit too young for McFarlane when it first came
Yeah.
out, but I was just old enough to really get into it when Ultimate came out.
Yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man, that's what it was for, man. It was great because it was like a retelling of this whole story, and you can get on board new, brought a new audience in. It was fantastic. And the way they did the Avengers in that first run of the Ultimate
Oh,
Avengers, or
yeah.
Ultimates, it was called the Ultimates. It was awesome. My favorite part, I still think about it. There's a part where it's like Hulk is going on a rampage, and then there's a crater, and like Banner's coming out of the crater. He's just transformed into Banner. And Cap is looking at him down the corridor. He's like, "Are you all right, son?" And it's like that corny Captain America moment. And
Yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, Cap." And he reaches out to help. Cap just boots him in the head and knocks him out. I love that. I love that. He's just like, "Yes." I was like, "You guys don't have to be so perfect all the time. It drives me nuts." It's not that
Right.
what they do
Like,
is perfect. It's
be
the fact that
for once in a while, like
they speak perfect. They speak perfect about themselves. It's like, you can't stop the Avengers. We are undefeated. It's like, oh, stop it.
right, use some contractions.
Stop it. Like, you know, give it a break, bring it down to reality a bit. So I like when the characters start feeling a little more grounded and realize that they're not perfect and they're idiots just like the rest of us, but they're
Right.
idiots with superpowers. And I prefer that take on it. And I think that's why I always kind of gravitated towards Spider-Man. Spider-Man's like my favorite character. He's
Same here, because he's super serious when he needs to be, but he also has, like, that sense of levity, and he makes mistakes and makes fun of himself, like,
yeah.
he's a
And
real
then,
dude.
and then when he goes through like hard times, you feel that with him. You're like, oh, the happy guy's sad, right? But
Oh, yeah,
it's
you wanna cry, read Spider-Man Blue.
I put that away. I'm currently going through my collection, and I'm using CLZ Collector's
Oh,
app,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and I'm using that to scan all my comics. And I just did the last bin I did, which I'm not fit. I have a lot of bins to go still. I think I'm 12 bins in, but had Spider-Man Blue in it.
Oh, that's such a sad one, man, like, oh my
Great
goodness.
artwork on the cover. The cover
Amazing.
artwork was amazing. I don't remember the insides because I was just saw the cover, but the
Yeah.
cover work was amazing. All right, sorry.
No,
Let's
you're
continue.
good, man. So what made you finally decide, like, this is I really wanna make this comic happen? Like, I know you said you had tried to do
Well,
stuff
yeah.
with other artists and they kinda fell off, and then you found this one and decided, "I'm just gonna hire this guy." And so, what was that motivate like, what was it about this
Well,
story that you really wanted to tell?
so-called living is when I wrote the story, I just always wanted to write a story where anything could happen in this world. Like I want to create a world of my own, and I wanted to have all these monsters, werewolves, vampires, zombies, and us normies, and I wanted us to all coexist and coexist like I coexist with you.
Right.
I know you're a vampire. I know you're a werewolf, but we're still having this. But
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have
yeah,
a
yeah.
werewolf podcast. That's fine. Like,
Like, it's not weird, it's just
yeah,
yeah, there's vampires, there's werewolves, like,
it's
whatever.
they're just a part of society. They're
Yeah.
just part of a regular society, but they have to deal with their same rules. Like silver bullets and werewolves and vampires bite you. You turn to a vampire. Zombies are a nuisance. But since we've grown up, since this reality, it's not a story where it's like we lived normally and then boom, these things happened. These guys were here. The idea is like as far as we can remember, they were always there. So our society grew up with them, right? And yeah, sure, there was wars and etc. But right now we're in a society just like now. It's not a future. It's not an apocalypse. it's just our current society, how it is now. You know, you go to Starbucks and your barista's a werewolf, whatever it is, right? But because of that, the way we react to these characters is different. So you won't necessarily run in fear of a vampire because you figure, oh, it's. But you might be wary because, like, you see, like like a gangbanger coming down the street. You're not gonna necessarily turn around and like, oh my god, it's that monster. But you might be like,
Right.
yeah, he might shoot me. Like, I don't know. Like, but the vampire, like, maybe he'll eat me, maybe he won't. Is he a good vampire? Is he a bad vampire? I don't know, because like it's like seeing a dark, like right now, seeing a dark person or a person in a dark alley. You know,
Yeah.
are they a psycho? Are they going to kill you? Are they going to eat your
Right,
face?
right, right.
Or are they just a nice old granny just walking by? You don't know. It's that. So what I look at it is like, yeah, sometimes vampires in this world do bad things, but sometimes people in our world do bad things. So, but there's like sources, like vampires can go get blood at, like, grocery stores or a bar. They can go get blood. There's services
Right.
for them because they've always been around. But if they want it fresh from the tap, they're going to have to break some rules or get, some consent. It's that world. That's not what the story's about, but that's the kind of world we live in. I'm just kind of painting a picture. So I wanted this world where all this could exist. So I developed these characters. I developed first Jack, Jill, Nick, and Casper. Jack's our main human. He's the guy on the cover running toward us in the blue pants. Nick is sitting on the corner of the fry box. Jill is the girl in the pink top. Right above her is Casper, and cowering in the back is Jack as well, because he's a bit of a coward. So the two big guys on the right, those are our vampires, and the girl is Jill. So the idea was that I created these characters, their bios, how they look, what their personalities were, and then I just dropped them in the sandbox and I watched what happened as I wrote. Like, I didn't know it was going to happen, but I just put them in the situation like, okay, I need these guys are going to go buy food. And there's going to be some spoilers, but you can read the first issue for free on
Global Comics.
Global Comics. So you can read it for free on Global Comics. And, but yeah, so I was like, they eat their food. Then Jill breaks up with them, and then they come across vampires, and stuff happens. And then Jack has got to adapt he starts coming across problems right away of being a vampire. So I just had that in my head, like a rough outline. And then I plot these characters in the situation, put them in their roles, and I was like, okay, now how does Jack order food? How does he react when Jill breaks up with him? How does Jill break up with him based on her personality that I wrote when they come across vampires? How do each of them react to these two personalities? So for me, I don't know what's going to happen. I put the rough points there, but then the characters kind of write themselves. So I like to see it. It keeps writing interesting for me as well. And I've used this example before. It's like, let's say we're going to film a movie, and we're going to film the same movie in parallel. One stars Jim Carrey. The other one stars Denzel Washington. Now, here's the plot points. Character gets out of bed, stubs his toe, has to run downstairs to somebody banging on the door, and it's the old lady from next door complaining about their dog pooped in their yard. Those are the plot points, right, that we're going to hit for this scene. Now, Jim Carrey would react to that toe stubbing very differently than Denzel Washington.
Oh, yeah.
And the way he acts to the person coming to his door saying,
Okay.
your dog pooped on my lawn, would be very different than Jim Carrey, how he would act to that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So when I write my characters and I have their personalities, I'm like, okay, he's like a Jim Carrey or he's a Denzel Washington. Not that any of those actors are references for me. I'm just using that.
Right, just using this as an analogy.
Yeah. So that's how I do it. It's like, okay, he's in this situation. How does Jack react? And then I do it that way. So I just try to plot out the main points. Like, this person's going to die. This person's going to go home. You're going to stay in his apartment. You're like, this guy's going to go get a coffee. He's going to meet this girl. And how does the interaction
So
happen?
you don't really go into it with like a full plot outlined. You just go into it with like major points that are going to happen in the issue, more or less.
Yes, exactly.
And
Yeah,
then just kind of fill in the gaps with whatever pops in your head.
yeah, it's just like put them on this adventure. And like, how
Do you
would he
find that's
save them?
easier than trying to plan out a whole story?
It is for me because it doesn't stop because I found when I get into a flow of writing characters talking back and forth, I don't have to cross check where I want the story to go every few lines. You know what I mean? I don't. I just need to know that they're ordering food. They're going to come across vampires. So I was like, okay. I mean, in there between, she breaks up with them. So that's all. I want to be able to just write. And when I first write a script, it's just like 80 pages nonstop of whatever. Just like
Just all of the thoughts that are coming to your head
dialogue,
for it.
dialogue, dialogue. And I'll put like, tab. I have an idea for a panel. He should be doing something like this. Dialogue, 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 dialogue. And then I don't even write who's saying the dialogue. I don't want to slow myself down because once I figure out, oh, it's Jack and Jill and Jack and Jill and Jack and Jill. And then if I introduce a new character, I might put Casper. Like he's now talking.
So how do you decide to like what cut out of that? Like, because I imagine when you get done and you've got this like pile of paper in front of you, it's got to look like a mess at
It's
first. Like,
well, first then I read it back to me and I just try to tighten it up because a lot of it I end up keeping. Actually, I just might say it in a different way because I do have those anchor points.
mhm.
I kind of got an idea of how long is it going to take to get there. And if something inspires me and I'm like, holy, their trip across the street is like, oh, it's going to get crazy. It's going to be like an adventure from one end to the other end. Then maybe I'll do that. Oh, maybe this is just an issue on its own of them crossing the street because, hilarity ensues. They can't cross for whatever reason. And it's like a whole adventure and it's just blown out of proportion. Again, never happened. Just an example. But that's just how I write. Oh, is this about Bendis's Daredevil?
Huh.
Which Daredevil did he do? Because I remember Underboss. That wasn't Bendis, was it? Who wrote Underboss? I don't think that was Bendis, but Underboss that's probably my favorite Daredevil story. That was dark.
That was really good.
Dark. That was a good one.
I was say, speaking of dark, the comedy in this book is dark to the point where it's like, really, 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 really super like squeamish people will be like, ew, that's not funny. How do you think that's funny? But like, the adult swim crowd were like, this is awesome. Like,
So you read it?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, excellent. Like, don't be surprised because I've done a few, like podcasts and interviews to promote the book. You go on the tour and you meet new people, which is great. And very few have actually read the book.
That's unfortunate. Like, I don't, I mean, I'm not judging anybody, but like, I don't understand how you can do a podcast and not read the book of the person coming onto the podcast. Like that.
But
I don't know.
I'm flattered that somebody did like whenever anybody does read it. So thank you
I
for
was
reading
gonna
the
say
book.
no, 100% because like I want to give away what happens at the end of issue 1 so bad because the way it ends is just so like matter of fact. Like,
Yeah, so you get the humor, which is good.
yeah, it's just like, yeah, okay. But it's like, dude, that was just okay. Like,
Yeah, it's really a
like you just kind of
life-changing
roll
event.
with it.
Yeah, exactly. He just rolls the punches like, all right. And I think I've like compared. I think in the Kickstarter page, there's something that says something like, it's like a Friends type of cast as I start introducing more people, but
It
it's
gives
got
that vibe a little bit, but like, yeah, just much darker.
yeah. And I you
Like,
start seeing his friends, then you'll start seeing like the way their way they're comfortable with each other and they're sarcastic and they mock each other, but they're always good with each other. They'll help, they help each other through the toughest times, but they're a bunch of tools, just kind of like
right.
like they're really close, but they're like, oh,
They're also kind of
how
mean
do you
to
guys
each
get
other
through
all
life?
the time.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
those are the
and then
best friends, I feel like if you can sit there and insult each other and then be just fine, like
yeah, and that's how they are. And then also have like I described as Sopranos tension because there's some bad guys that get involved, and you start
Mhm.
seeing them get involved in book 2, and Jack is going to get in over his head. So he's like this. He's a bit of a bumbling idiot,
He
and
gives that vibe. He gives that vibe.
but
I
the
kinda
people.
sympathize with
Yeah,
him a little bit.
so the people that he's going to get involved with, they are not bumbling idiots. They are they have a they have a very serious tone to them, which is opposite of Jack. So
I was
imagine
gonna say
like the
Jack is
Friends
just like,
character.
"I just want to chill, like,
Yeah.
I don't want
So,
no problems."
yeah. So imagine like, Chandler and Joey from Friends getting involved with like The Sopranos. That's
Oh my
do you know what I mean?
god.
It's like how to so they're dealing with it and staying in character, but they're in a very serious situation.
Right.
So that's kind of how um oh, somebody wrote on this was interesting. I mentioned this at the beginning. The fact that Restream allows me to share on my channel, and somebody came through on my channels on Boarding Coffee saying, why does he hate poutine? So here's okay now.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, oh, you saw it. You saw it come through. Yeah. So I thought now this is gonna upset some people, but I don't like poutine. Because I don't like cheese. I like cheese on pizza, but that's pretty much it. I've tried cheese, but I don't like
Not
it.
like just
And
to take it out the fridge,
I'm
open
gonna
up a slice
y
and eat it sitting
no,
on the
I'm gonna
couch kinda
lose
guy.
my Canadian card because I don't like poutine. So,
I'll say maybe that is an American thing, I don't know.
no, like, the
We do there's a
Canadian
lot of things we do that apparently nobody else does, so
Canadians love their poutine. So, but yeah, so that's a lot of things Jack does. It's because that's a little bit of me in him. And here's a little fun fact. Jack was originally Mark. I named him after me, but I couldn't write the script for me.
like, it just felt weird doing
Once
it.
that was my me in there, I was like, I can't do this. I don't know what to do. And somebody told me change his name, just change his name. And I was like, really? And then they're like, yeah, I read somewhere that if you just change their name, blah 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 blah. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a go. I think it's bullshit, but I'll give it a go. So I was watching 24 at the time, so I changed it to Jack from Jack Bauer from
Yeah.
24, and it stuck in my head. I was like, I'll change it to Mark later, but I'm not going to. I still can't because if I have that thought in my head, then I'm still writing for me. Like I can't deke myself out that much.
So it
So
kind of flipped a switch where you're
yeah,
like, "Okay, this is no longer me,
yeah,
so
this
I
is Jack
can
now.
write for somebody who doesn't exist."
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. So it's Jack now. So then it became Jack and Jill. Uh,
I mean,
so
that's
that
just natural, right?
yeah, so that felt because originally it was Mark and Jill.
Jack and Jill just fits so much
It
better,
does.
though,
It fits so well, and
because you almost start expecting a Jack and Jill story at one point because they do kinda go up a hill at
they
one
do go
point,
up the
and
hill,
it's just only one of them comes back
and
down the hill, you
and
know?
and that hill thing about that hill is when I originally wrote it, it was just supposed to be like a little grassy knoll beside a
Mhm.
parking lot that they kinda went over, and, when Marco drew it, he drew this big hill, and she was running up the hill, and I was like, "Yeah, that kinda works. Jack and Jill went up the hill."
Yeah.
Right? So, I was like, "Yeah, okay, that I'm done." I was like, "Not what I described, but that's better. I like yours better." So, um, and then as I was writing that whole as you read the book or Nick discovers their names are, he puts together their names are Jack and Jill, and that's only when it clued into me. When I was writing the script, I was like, "Wait a second, you guys are Jack and Jill?" That's in my head, I was like, "Oh, yeah, they are. They're Jack and
It's
Jill."
just something you started doing, didn't even really think
Yeah,
about
I
it,
didn't even
and just
realize it because his name was and it's not like in my head I'm saying Jack and Jill all the time. So
right.
when I write my scripts, I'm going through, like I said, I don't even write their names. So I'm like, line 1, line 2, line 1, line 2, line 1, line 2, like boom, 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 boom. They're just responses, like, and so I'm not even writing their names. And when I went through and started cleaning it up, and they met Nick, and that's when it clued into me. So I just included that in the script. Yeah, and there's some pages from book 2.
I would say we got a couple little teasers that you said we could show,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that I
Yeah,
love these variant covers too.
oh, thank you. Well, the one on the right is not the variant. That's the
That's the
standard.
original cover for
Yeah,
number 2, right?
number 2. Yeah, the variant on the left is from Ashton Techno Prasad. He's a photographer in Toronto, and he's great. You can follow him on Instagram. I think Ashton Techno is what he goes by on Instagram. He's
Okay.
fantastic, phenomenal photographer, and I've known him since he was 10 years old. We
Oh,
were
wow.
he was a child, I was an adult, but I knew him since he was 10 because he's my best man's stepson.
Ah,
So,
okay, got you.
and they grew up, and you see kids and they grow up, and you're like, yeah, you're just gonna. You always see them as kind of like that little kid until they show you something. Like he showed me his photography the first time before he like blew up, and now people are like flying him to Paris. He's flying to Paris and New York
Oh,
to take
that's awesome.
photography. But before that, when he first saw his work, I was like, "Holy crap, you did this!"
'Cause
And
you're
he was
still
like,
seeing, like, the little
yeah.
ten-year-old kid
And I
that you
was,
met back in the day.
yeah. And then I was like, I was like, this stuff's amazing. Like your photography is amazing. That's not even like the stuff the image that he let me use for the cover is not my favorite of his. He's got so many good photos, but I wanted to put something of his on there because I thought it I guess it made it feel personal. It was somebody I knew had their art
Mhm.
on my comic. Um, and the fact that it was a shot of Toronto, and that's where I was born and raised, I feel like like shout out to my hometown.
It was just a very
So
personal cover for
yeah,
you.
yeah. So I wanted to use that, and the other variant for that is the one that him running. You showed earlier the purple cover with Jack running. That's the variant for book one on the left, and that's Derek Loffman, who's a good friend of mine. I've known him for years. We worked together in the video game industry, and he lives in London, Ontario, with me, and he put together this cover for me, and I think it's great. He did a great
No,
cover. He did a great job.
awesome.
Yeah.
That I was gonna say the art style, like, period in this book is so good because it's so like, it feels like something that would be on Adult Swim.
Mm. Yeah.
If it, like, ever got optioned for it, like, if Adult Swim, "Hey, pick
Yeah.
this up."
Marco, yeah, Marco nailed it. And the thing is, when I was looking for artists, I had a specific, yes, that's my wife. she
Shout out
she's
Brittany, Mrs.
she
Maya.
she's joined in the chat. But I'm guessing the toddler is eating, as that's why she's able to join in the chat. So
I got a buddy going through a newborn right now, so
yeah, we have our toddler. Somebody's always watching out. But what was I talking about? I can't remember what I was talking about. I lost it. Oh yeah, Marco, the art
Yeah,
style.
yeah.
So I had a specific art style in mind, and I like Ramos. I like Ramos's art style. So I was looking for somebody that kind of draws like Ramos. And a lot of people have compared this also to like Chew
It does kinda
and
give off that vibe for
the Chew
sure,
vibe.
but it's not, like, so
No,
similar that it feels like it's
no,
copied
yeah,
or
it's not.
something, like,
Chew's got a little bit more. It has a little bit more cartooniness,
we guessed
like
right.
deformation of the characters on it. So it's not the same style at all. But I can see where people can draw comparisons. And but then when I found Marco, and I was like, oh, his art is so close to Ramos, but I just need you to adult it up a bit because his specialty is he does really thing where he does a really good job at like characters that look like kids and they're super detailed and they have all this curly hair and that's what he
Right, right,
does.
sorta like what kinda, Scotty Young's been doing with his variant covers
Yeah,
where
but
they're
it
like
for
the little baby versions of the
well, he's
characters.
less he does his are less chibi, and they look like skinny nine-year-olds,
Okay.
right?
I
So
can picture what you're saying.
and yes, Ramos is top notch. She's one of my favorite artists. I actually reached out to, I
Shout
actually
out
reached out
Michael
to Ramos.
Balonis, the is, former guest of the show.
Oh, welcome, Michael. Yeah, Ramos actually wrote I reached out to him on socials to be like, "Maybe I can get him to do a cover." Let's let's see. And no response. Ramos,
Well,
if you're watching, I'd love you to do a cover.
I was gonna say, you know you wanna do a cover for this book. I mean, look at
Yeah.
this.
And like that, when I saw that news reporter on the TV, I was like, "Oh, that's so Ramos." Like, I was
Right,
like,
like
"Looks like
and
old school Ramos."
that's part of what you were talking about where the world is just like all these people and all these creatures just kinda are.
Yeah,
Like, there's a news story about a zombie, like, riot going on, and these 2 are just like, "Nah, they got gravy on my fries, I asked for no gravy." Like
yeah, and that's how I wanted to introduce the world is because and because Jack's reactions off screen is like, "Oh my god, can you believe this is happening?" Like, that's what the dialogue is, and he's
Right.
talking about his fries, and Jill's watching TV, and she looks so uninterested, like, "Yeah, just another day," and then, the next page is like, the zombie, I can't remember I'm drawing a blank, can't remember what I called them, but the zombie cleanup crew, they just came
Yeah.
come in here with their vans, and they wrapped up the zombies, and the problem was, like, cleaned right up. It's they're kind of like, you find you get a raccoon under your deck and you call, the animal control.
Right.
That's what these guys are.
Zombie
It's like,
control.
you're like, "Oh, there's a zombie in my deck under my deck or in my pool. Like, can you come get these guys? Can you come get this out?"
I love it though because it's like it's funny without, like, trying too hard to be funny, like, it just is funny, if
Thank you.
that makes any sense, like
there's these little subtle jokes I have in there that I've built into the world. That's just it's the rule of the world that I think people will pick up as the book goes. Where it's like the second or third last page in book one, where since you've read it, there's that line where Jack's like, "Well, there's a pool," and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it pans to the pool, and the zombie is like, there's a zombie in the water up to here, and Nick's line is like, "Yeah, a regular lap of luxury," or something he says, right?
Right.
So,
Like,
but
it's
the
just
zombie,
there.
yeah, the zombie in the pool is kind of this ongoing joke or part of the reality where zombies are attracted to pools. Like how you always end up with leaves in your pools. It's like they're magnetized to leaves in your pool. Zombies will end up in your pool. So there'll be guys with like, nets trying to get nets and hooks trying to get the zombies to their pool. So it's just a common thing. Oh, what is it? When I hate when I get off work at 6:30. I was just
Th
reading the comment.
We're just always happy that you, show up, Michael. We love the fact that you still hang out with us.
So yeah, that's like a subtle thing. Like I don't bring really attention to it. It's just like they mentioned the pool, and you cut to the pool, and there's a zombie in it,
Yeah.
but they don't even address the zombie. It's just a
No,
thing.
it's just
So
existing by itself there.
and there's like there's one joke. This it's just a small joke, doesn't really spoil anything, but somebody is going to be talking about their apartment, and they're going to be like, and there's a pool, and it's going to cut to the pool, and it's just like overrun with zombies, like just in the, and it cuts back to Jack, and he's like, "There's always a pool." it's it's like there's a feature, it's like a feature. It's
Like,
like, "Hey,
he
there's a pool."
notices the
Yeah,
joke, just never acknowledges it until
yeah.
that one little moment. I love that
So
kinda stuff because it's almost like a fourth wall break, but not really.
so it's the world does like expand, and there's more characters that get involved. And the first two issues are very much setting up Jack and the main crew, and introduces our bad guys in book two. And then once book three and four kicks up, then that's kind of like where the the danger happens, right? That's
Right.
when like because Jack's situation of like becoming a vampire is going to intersect with these other events of very serious people, and
The
he does,
Soprano-like characters
yeah.
you were talking
So
about.
it's going to intersect with them, and he's not going to be prepared. So
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as the prepared for anything kinda guy.
no. And did you notice the bunny motif? There's like there's a bunny motif on the Kickstarter page, but there's a like slight little bunny mentions in the book.
Okay.
That's a thing that shows up later, as far as like it comes up again, but it comes up as people talking it like they describe it in the first book in the news as the bunny crisis,
Yes,
right?
okay, I was trying to, like, remember which part of issue 1 did they
It's like
mention bunnies because I know I
book two.
remember seeing it.
It's page two or three. They're like, because they're talking about the zombies, and it was quickly, quickly handled by the zombie control team. And
And
then
then it
they
was, like,
go,
just a background story going on while they were talking.
exactly, about the bunny
Yeah.
crisis, and then that's it. And then there's no mention of it again. And then book two, there's a little bit more, and book three is a little bit more. And but the way they talk about it as well, it's almost like, yeah, it's an issue happening somewhere else. Like it's yeah, it's raining, but it's not raining here. You know what I
Right.
mean? So they just talk about it like, so, and they kind of take Jack kind of never takes anything too seriously, until he's kind of like me in that way, where I take nothing too seriously until it affects me. Then I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. Now I'm screwed.
Right, right.
Now it's time to take
Once
it
you
serious.
realize you're already, like,
Yeah, it's
out of
too late.
options.
Yeah. Once it's too late to take it seriously, that's when you take it seriously.
Of
Right.
course.
So that's how Jack rolls.
No, I love it. So, you said this is going for what, you plan on 8 issues?
Yeah, 8 issues. That should wrap up the story. And I'd like to revisit So-Called Living, and probably as another. I'd like to do it as like kind of a series, a mini series, just like 8 issues and then 8 issues or something like that,
Yeah.
where it's just like you can
Like
revisit.
like a season of a show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'd like to do it like that. And obviously if I could write more, it'd be great. But it depends how the Kickstarters do, right? Right now unless there's a mass exodus on Kickstarter, everything's going well. So, um,
I was like, I
I
don't see that going away anytime
no,
soon. So
I think I might have I might have to bite the bullet on shipping a little more than I thought because of the way things are going in Canada as far as our weird unnecessary
I would
taxes
say
that
I
are
keep
happening.
seeing all kinds of stuff on my TikTok feed, and I'm like, I'm in Columbus, Ohio. Why are you guys showing me stuff from Canada that I don't understand what's going on? Like, like
It's a mess here. It's a mess.
that's what it
Um,
looks like, man. Because now I'm starting to watch the videos because they just pop up so much.
yeah, because like we have our shipping costs and up on like on our page, and in this like in the states, and we're actually we lowballs compared to like a lot of other like I tried to back a book from the states to here, an indie book, and it was a $10 book, $23 shipping from the states to here, and I was like, holy
Yeah.
crap. So I was like, I know shipping in Canada just sucks in general. So shipping to and shipping out of and shipping within anything Canada's involved, our shipping is just crazy expensive. What you guys ship for like $10 costs us 60. It's crazy.
Is it because you guys are just so much bigger? Like they've got more distance to travel or what?
No, I don't know. I'm guessing there's a little bit of greed involved. I don't know what it
I'm
is.
assuming that's usually what the problem is 9
but
times out of 10.
but yeah, the like our shipping for the states is like it's $12 Canadian, which is like $8 or something like that
Mhm.
US. And that's anywhere in the states. And that really, when we did the cost, that covers us to the upper side. But when you go south, we start eating the costs on that. But we're like, okay, we just want to get our books into people's
Right.
hands, right? So it's like $10 all across Canada and $12 all across the states, even though those costs aren't accurate as far as like our accurate cost. Like that's what we're charging for sure. That like it's
Right.
accurate that
But it's
way.
not necessarily what it always costs.
Yeah. So, but we're like, we'll eat the cost just because we want people to get the book and we want to make it, as easy as possible for people to get the book. Um, but the other day, my wife shipped something and she used the shipping service that we use. And she was like, yeah, it costs this much. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like this. And she used like the packaging. We bought the packaging for the comic book. So I was like, this might as well be a backer level. Like, and those numbers don't add up with what we came up with like 3 weeks ago. And they're like,
Right.
yeah, because I think it's because the stupid carbon tax has driven everything up. Now I did mention that in the text, it says estimated cost, like it might change, things out of our control. But if we can still keep it, we're gonna keep it. Like my goal is still right now, keep it as is. Because like I'll adjust for the next Kickstarter.
Right.
Because I'm very much a man of my word. So if I say something,
Don't like changing
I
something after you've
don't.
already put it up or
Yeah, so I don't like changing. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I do not like changing. And if I do, I just hate myself for it. And I'd feel worse about changing it than I would about paying the difference.
Right.
So, and that's it.
No, I get that 100%. Like, I would rather just it's easier to just do what you said you're gonna do, like, rather than, like, try to send out a bunch of, "Oh, we apologize, but now we have to do this, and now we have to do that," and just it's easier just to eat the couple bucks. Like,
Yep. Yep. It's true. All right. What's next?
is there any other genres that you would want to explore other than, like, the dark comedy side of things? Like, are there other stories you've got, like, ready to go on the back burner?
There's one that I started. I wrote issue 1 and I really enjoyed it. And then I started doing those rough plot points. But I've only established one character so far, and it's only got a project title, which
Okay.
I apply project titles to things if I don't until I have an actual title, which is I guess a habit I get from the video game industry. It's like Project
Right.
X, Project Black Chair. You know what
Right,
I
because
mean?
everything's gotta be a secret, and
So, but I didn't have a title for this. So right now it's called like the Japan story. And the reason it's called the Japan story is because Japan plays a big part in this story, but doesn't take place in Japan.
it's just a way to keep track of what you were thinking about
Yeah,
that
so I
day,
was like, okay,
basically.
got it. So I wrote the first issue, and I really like the way that's working out. But that issue is very much not sarcastic, dark humor. It's like a very serious um, sci-fi angle. So it's present day mixes with sci-fi, and it's got a very serious tone to it. So it's very much like reading like the when you read a serious sci-fi novel, right?
Okay.
But at the pace of a comic book. So
Okay.
it's kind of so it's very different tone. And for that, I wouldn't have Marco illustrate. I would need somebody that draws things a little less animated. If that makes
A
sense.
little grittier.
A little rigid, a little more rigid to their people, because something that looks more like um a drawing of a real person, not to look real, but like how our bodies move versus how a cartoons move. Like that's
Right.
which is how like so-called living is illustrated more.
Like
Their
like when,
body.
Jack's running and his arms are, like, super all
Yeah,
crazy, like,
exactly.
nobody runs like
No.
that.
Or like there's a part where he's hanging upside down. He's like, "Wah," he's all
Right,
goofy.
which
Like,
it works for that art style
yeah.
100%, but
So that wouldn't be the situation for this. So I'd find somebody that has a more serious style. But that story, if it goes as planned, would be a one and done.
okay.
So it would be like a short miniseries, and then that story, that world will be resolved.
Kinda like the amount for a good graphic novel.
Yeah. Because the way I'm seeing it, it's one of those like world global changing events. So
Mhm.
after that event is resolved, be it good or bad, the world's changed forever. So you won't be able to continue that story.
Gotcha.
Um, so that it's going to be a one and done. Leave it.
There's
Um,
not a lot of those anymore. Like, everything's got a spin-off or, like, there's always, like, an alternate timeline or I feel
yeah.
like sometimes you don't need to be overcomplicated with that kinda stuff, like,
Well,
stories can have a true beginning, middle, and end sometimes,
we
like
were talking about like Harrow County, right?
Mhm.
Uh, that's a story that's got it ends, it just ends. And it's a great story, great
And it
artwork.
doesn't need to be anything more than what it is.
No, it's Harrow County. If you haven't read it, go out there, check it out. It's awesome. It's a horror. It's definitely a horror
Oh,
comic.
yeah, for sure. I wouldn't
And,
recommend that for all ages by any
yeah,
means,
not
but
for the kiddies. Not for the kiddies. Uh, it's like when you walk around with a skin sack in your purse that talks to you.
Yeah.
That's it's out there. It's out there. If you want a unique story, check out Harrow County.
Oh, yeah,
It's
for sure.
definitely different, but great.
Well, if they wanna check out your stuff, where can they find you online? Where can they find So-Called Living? Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Well, So-Called Living is up on Kickstarter until April 25th, and it's for books 1 and 2. So they'll come as a set. If you want to get a taste of it, book 1 is available for free. Like you can read it for free on Global Comics. And even if you go to Kickstarter page, you can read the first 5 pages, and then there's a link at the bottom that takes you right to Global Comics, so you could read that for free. And then if you like it, I was kind of putting my work on the line, being like, this is a good story. These are good characters. You're gonna like it. So I want to show you. I'm giving you basically half the story for free from this Kickstarter, like at least
Mhm.
the Kickstarter portion of it, half of it for free, so you can back me, so I can do the rest of the stories. And book 1 will be stay up for free forever, but everything else, ideally, Kickstarter will come through. So yeah, find So-Called Living on Kickstarter. I'm You can also reach out to us on Instagram and Facebook, although those channels haven't had much action on it yet because I started them the same time I did the Kickstarter. So it's a lot of plates to
Trust
spin.
me, I know that game
So
100%. I do this all day, every
yeah.
day. So the multi-platform thing can get exhausting.
Yeah. And another way to reach out to me is just Board Game Coffee, which is our YouTube channel. And we got our Instagram channel, our YouTube channel, and on Facebook. So just look up Board Game Coffee, and you'll find us. And that's pretty much it. So-Called Living and Board Game Coffee on all social media, and you'll find us. So-Called Living written how it is there. Yeah.
We'll throw that QR code back up on the
Yeah,
screen. You
right here.
guys can scan that code right there, or we do have links down in the description to the Kickstarter, also to Mark's website for So-Called Living, so you can find out more about the book there as well. If you guys want to help and support the show to help us support the independent comic book community, get more people on here, go more places to do the show live, you can go over to our Indie Inkwell merch store and pick up a t-shirt or a hoodie or a sticker, or you can just hit the like and subscribe button. That really helps us out a lot more than you would think. Is there anything else you want to plug before I let you go enjoy the rest of your evening, man?
No, no, that's it. Just, back so-called living because it's backing now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Shout out Michael Balonis, man.
Thank you, Michael.
Everybody go check out his book as well, Wendy and the Other Side. Really good all ages book.
Check that out too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem, man. And as always, everybody out there, please be safe, be kind, and take it easy. We will see you back next week. Take it easy, guys.
See ya.